Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Thursday. It is the last day of the month, June the 30th, 2022, day 146 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count. It is day 1164. Today we're picking up back in Oahspe on page 246, continuing the book of Divinity. May y'all continue to open our eyes and our ears to the truth, and may we apply it to our life every single day and be able to live in light and peace, that those who see us may be affected by our light, that they would begin to get a little light themselves and begin to help light the world in its darkest hour. Tiffany! Hey girl, hey. Audrey, shalom. Mom, shalom. Auntie, grand rising. All right, beautiful people. If you're on YouTube, I posted the link for Facebook. If it start glitching over here, just click the link. Hop on over. All right, y'all. 246. Chapter 10. All right. In the 1200th year after Fragapati, in the east colony of Harati, one Situsk, a former lord of Jehovah's hosts, renounced Jehovah, the Creator, and falsely proclaimed himself Ahura, the All-Master, and he took with him 3 lords of grade 88. Oh my gosh. First of all, how do you just walk away when you grade 88? I'm just like, bruh, you always got to be on watch. Okay. And falsely proclaimed himself Ahura, the All-Master, and he took with him 3 lords of grade 88 and sub-gods of grade 64 and 1,600 students of 800 years resurrection, none of whom were less than grade 60 and were sufficient to pass as bride and bridegrooms. So we already know that you can't even pass as a bride and bridegroom until you literally like have all the earth and the lower heavens like down pat, like you know it inside and out in your sleep, although they don't sleep. You have to be at least grade 50 to graduate as a bride or a bridegroom, right? So there was none less than grade 66, and the highest is grades 88. Okay. And after, let's see, lords of grade 88, and after and, it has reference number 5 at the bottom. It says, and 12 sub-gods. Okay, so up here it just says sub-gods. But the foot reference says, and 12 sub-gods of grade 64 and 1,600 students of 800 years were less than grade 66 and were sufficient to pass as brides and bridegrooms. And these students took with them 36,000 teachers, factors, and physicians and nurses, all of whom were upward of grade 40. Oh my G, like y'all was like almost there. Now they gonna just set their whole self back. Terrible. Levine, blessings. Verse 2. And Ahura appropriated to himself one colony of 110 million angels, together with colleges, schools, factories, and all things whatsoever belonging therein. And the 3 lords took their kingdoms, and by annexation made them part and parcel with Ahura's kingdom. Now these 3 lords and kingdoms comprise the largest habitable places of mortals in Vindu and Japheth, and the greatest heavenly places of angels in the first resurrection. Okay, so although I'm a little ticked that they did this, we did learn yesterday that there would be certain ones who would just leave, right? But y'all, he just lets them go do their thing, right? Because it says, verse 12 at the end of chapter 5. Matter of fact, I read from verse 10 to 12. And I got it marked in here, rise of false gods and false lords. First, let me mark my place right here. Okay, and back over here at the end of chapter 5, it says, If he doth not yet comprehend faith in all person, he shall be granted freedom to all the places where he hath served, and he shall be emancipated from all lords and gods, and from labor and education, and honorably discharged to pursue whatsoever he desireth in any place or heaven. And those are like the lower ones, where he allows, after you get a certain point, he just allow you, like, if you don't fully comprehend and want to fall in the ranks with all light or Yah, he'll let you do what you want to do, right? But he also uses that Jan Grand Rising. He also uses that to his benefit, for the overall of the whole of everybody, mortal and angels alike. Listen, he shall be emancipated from all lords and gods, and from all labor and education, and honorably discharged to pursue whatsoever he desireth in any place in heaven or earth. Nor shall the lords nor gods take more notice of him than due respect and honor, right? So if you see him, leave him alone, give him honor, due respect, and just let him go about his way, right? Whereupon Div, son of all light, spake, saying, this also shall be part and parcel of the deviant law, which is to say, of the latter class of the ones that do this, that break away from Yah, of the latter class rise the false gods and false lords, that oft set up kingdoms of their own in atmosphere. They shall not rise above the second resurrection. The voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, without the disbeliever in spirits, mortals could not find courage to smite serpents. Without false gods and false lords, the lowest Druhas would never be put to work. They who cannot be risen by persuasion may be aroused by less scrupulous masters who make slaves of them, right? So we need this. I wouldn't get caught up in it, but we need it. Just don't find yourself on the wrong side of light. I'm just saying, because it will be allowed to happen. And back at chapter 10, verse 3, page 246. And Ahura divided up the kingdoms he thus obtained, making confederate heavenly kingdoms sufficient in number to give place of dominion to his lords and gods, and to make sub-gods out of all the 1,600 students. Wow, talk about putting a novice in office. After that, Ahura numbered his people, and thus were in his heavens more than 3,000 million souls. God sent messengers to Cetus, who had assumed the name Ahura Mazda, inquiring, admonishing, and inquiring, my Lord, whom I have loved, whom by my own hand was crowned in the name of Jehovah, why hast thou deserted the father's kingdoms? Wherein hast thou cause to complain against Jehovah? Wherein against me, thy God? O my son, my Lord, say not thou hast gone so far that thou cannot return. What canst thou ask of me that I will not grant unto thee? Nay, even judge thou me, and if thou desirest all the heavens and earth in my place, I will abdicate unto thee, and become thy lowest servant, or whatsoever thou would put upon me. Now that's a true leader right there, Uncle JB. Shalom. Ahura returned this answer to wit, because I have nothing against thee, I have alienated myself and my kingdom from thee. I desire not thy kingdom, nor my own. Behold, I looked upon thee, and thou wert pure and holy. I looked upon the kingdoms of heaven and the kingdoms of earth, and they were impure and unholy. Then came certain brother lords to me, most wise lords, and they said, a less pure God, a less holy God would be more efficient. So I was persuaded to my course. God replied to this, saying, behold, we have a diva. Why spakest thou not thus before me face to face? And thy 3 great lords were also deviants, and they were silent on the matter likewise. The div would have decreed whatever was all wise. Because I was in darkness, I saw not thy thoughts, nor thy lords, and ye have heaped shame upon me. How shall I send my record to Ethera? Shall I say, behold, certain lords consulted clandestinely, and then concluded to overthrow the Creator? And forsooth, they have gone up to set up a kingdom of their own, calling it the All-Highest? Hear me yet, and I will endeavor to speak wisely unto thee. Thy messengers notified me some days since that thou hast repudiated Jehovah, saying, there is no all highest person. I can make myself high as the highest. And thereupon thy messenger gave me a map, saying, behold thou, here are the boundaries of the kingdom of Ahura Mazda, the all-sufficient high God. Bro, you didn't even did a whole map to give to everybody. Verse 8, I looked over the map and beheld its great extent, and I surmised to myself, he is a great God that can rule over all that. For I knew thee and thy education, which is as great as any lord's in atmosphere, and thou knowest thou canst not control even the plateau. Canst thou raise thine hand and stay Oahspe, or the GA, or the nebula? Scarce can thou change a single current of wind, nor canst thou cast a drought on any land. And yet thou knowest there are gods who can do these things by a motion of one finger. How darest thou then proclaim thyself an all-sufficient high God? But I will not rebuke thee, for I desire thy love and thy help. I will win thee by any sacrifice I can make. Behold, there is great darkness in heaven and on earth, wherein I may be sure I will rebuke myself in after ages. I pray thee then, return thou to me, and make exactions upon me and my kingdoms. With thy loss, behold, Diva is broken up. With thy dismemberment of heavens, others will follow. Alas, I will not look upon even that which my soul seeth. I plead for thy love and for thy assistance. Nevertheless, if the all highest light, for the all best good, showeth thee that thou art right, come not to me. I know the great spirit will sustain me, even though my soul is well nigh crushed to pieces by the loss of so fair a love. Oh, it's so beautiful. To this, Ahura replied, How came the thought to me to do as I did, if it be not the wisest, best course? God replied, because of the long reign of Ga, thou wert inoculated with darkness, even as a mortal on a rainy day loses his patience to be wise. Oh, that's beautiful. Then Ahura sent the following, to wit, I have been patient in mine answers, but now I will speak plainly. First of all, thou art all pure and most wise above all other gods. For more than 200 years I have been a faithful Lord unto thee and thy kingdoms. At first the great light came to thee, and a voice came out of light. Then I feared and was awe-stricken, because I believed thee so near the Creator. Thine every word and act were to me worshipful. At last I rebuked myself, saying to myself, Fool, givest thou worship to man born of woman? Remember thy Creator only. But the times changed. Ga fell upon heaven and earth. Our glorious kingdoms were cast down by the great darkness. So remember why Oahspe and Ga fell upon the earth. Jehovah even told them that he was about to do this. Why? Because before he did that, the whole earth had been brought into peace, like heaven and earth. And it said they became as one planet together, heaven and earth, right? So there were no more wars or anything like that. And everybody, they stopped looking at the physical plane, and they only looked towards the spiritual. And they were growing like wildfire spiritually, everybody. So he said, well, listen, they're completely focused on the spiritual realm, that the earth is going in shambles. Ain't nobody doing the work down here. He said, don't worry about that, son. He said, in 10 years, I'm going to come, and it's going to be a graduation for all those here now. He said, then I'm going to cast the earth into darkness for about 400 years. And was it 400 years? I think it was 400 years. And then he said what this will do, it'll retrain those people who are still there, the mortals who are still there, to begin to pay attention to the earth, right? Because they'll be walking around in darkness, can't really see. I mean, it wasn't dark, like, it was dark to where they wouldn't hear the spirit of the Creator. They wouldn't get any kind of inspiration. But it was also like a overcast, like on the days that the sun doesn't come out, like that, right? So they will begin paying attention, tilling the ground. The whole purpose of doing that was to get the mortals working again, bring balance back, right? There has to be physical and spiritual. You need them together. You need them to grow appropriately, right? All right, so that was just a quick recap from yesterday. Great Spirit Jehovah, peace and blessings. Verse 14. But the times changed, GA fell upon heaven and earth. Our glorious kingdoms were cast down by the great darkness. Then I reasoned, saying to myself, behold, when we were in light, Jehovah's voice spake unto us. When the darkness came, the voice came not. Remember, the voice is another name for the great spirit of Jehovah, or for Yah, right? Behold, when we were in light, Jehovah's voice spake unto us. When the darkness came, the voice came not. We sat in the diva, in the altar circle, praying for light from the Father, but it came not. And I said, more we need the voice in darkness than in light. For 100 years we saw not the light of the voice, nor heard the voice speak. Thou hast said, thou hast heardest in thy soul. Who is there in heaven or earth that cannot say as much? In my soul, I no longer believe there is an all person. There are great gods, 1,000 times greater than I, but there is the end. Yea, some of those great gods may have cast the GA upon us, but it is not my matter. But that is not my matter. There is room for thee and thy people. Here is room for me and my people. Jehovah spake to God, saying, answer thou not, O horror, any more. Behold, I will interpret him to thee. I will even yet persuade angels and mortals that it is he who inspired Zarathustra, but he seeth it not himself. Suffer him therefore to go his way, neither take sorrow to thy soul. Have I not, from the lowest to the highest, given unto all men even that which they desired? Behold, I can use even bad men in the far future. This is beautiful. They're needed. So the false lords and the false gods, although you don't want to find yourself on their side of the kingdom, Yah still uses them. We can't see in Oahspe to cover our head. Why? Cover your beautiful hair. See, because I ain't got to that part yet. See, in my personal vow, I cover my head because I'm a Nazarite. And I wear on my head my consecration. So when I'm live, it's like I'm public before all the world. And anybody can come into this space, right? Anybody can come in. And we've seen since we've been here, people come in posting all kind of stuff, pouring links, all that stuff, which we politely clean up and go about our way, right? But there's an exchange of energy here. Although it's electronic, it's really more than that. So I cover what's sacred. When I'm in a sanctity of my own home with my family is sacred. I can uncover it with them and when we're out together. But anything else, I cover what's sacred. Just like you cover your private parts, aren't they sacred? Aren't they consecrated unto you? That's why I choose to still cover my head. All right. Now we got that out the way, y'all. All right. Verse 17. Jehovah said, for a long season, Uhura will strive to walk upright, but because he hath cut me off, he will also cut himself off in time to come. Behold, a mortal man striveth for riches honorably, and when he is rich, his riches cut him off from me by the ruin he casteth upon his competitors. Let me read that again. Jehovah said, for a long season, Uhura will strive to walk upright, but because he hath cut me off, he will also cut himself off in the time to come. Behold, a mortal man striveth for riches honorably, and when he is rich, his riches cut him off from me by the ruin he casteth upon his competitors. Nor can he extricate himself. Even so will it be with Uhura. His kingdom and his sub-kingdoms and his multitude of officers will cause him to enslave hundreds of millions of Druhas, and they will draw him into a vortex from which he cannot escape. Oof, buddy, they tried to stop you. So God answered Ahura no more, but nevertheless his heart was full of sorrow. Now, when the time of the meeting of Diva came, God foresaw that not more than one half of them would be present, and he feared that the question might come up. But Jehovah said unto him, Fear not, my son, for even though many more leave thee, yet shalt thou preserve the Diva to the end of this cycle. So it came to pass that Jehovah stilled the tongues of all the gods and lords of the Diva in reference to Ahura, even as if they had never known him. And Ahura sent quizzers to different gods and lords afterward to learn what action the Diva had taken in this case. But when he was told that he had not been mentioned, he became angered, and he swore an oath that he would build the largest of all heavenly kingdoms. Bruh, you ain't really want to go if you got to send people back. Hey, what they say? Anybody say anything about me? And they said, nobody even mention your name, bruh. And so that pissed them off because ain't nobody talking about them. You left. I mean, you're not here to defend yourself. We ain't gonna say nothing about you. Listen. Verse 20. Because of the great darkness on heaven and earth, God sent hope and promise into all the kingdoms, urging his lords and his sub-gods to maintain faith, not only in themselves, but within the hearts of their respective inhabitants. Now, from the time of the secession of Ahura to the next Dan would be 300 years, and God knew this, though the multitudes in heaven and earth knew it not. And God commanded great recreation and extensive labors in order to prevent further dismemberment. But in the course of 100 years, many were carried away by the extravagant stories told about Ahura's kingdoms being in places of great delight and of ease and idleness. Okay, so yeah, it was 400 years. So after 100 years, he got all dejected and stuff. And then it says he would be in that state for until the next Dan, which would be in 300 years. So that's 400 years. Okay, verse 21. Ahura's lords said unto him, Thou shalt adorn thy kingdom and thy throne and thy capital. Cetus shall be the largest and most ornamental of all places in the universe, and our sub-kingdoms shall be places of great delight. And Ahura was persuaded, and so began self-glorification, and his lords with him. And in another 100 years, Ahura had withdrawn and annexed unto him in heaven the following provinces with their sub-gods. Etiasif with 70 million souls, Hawak with 100 million souls, Hen with 20 million souls, Denayoto with 80 million souls, Erephovish with 190 million souls, the whole of the kingdom of Garakshi, 600 million souls, the whole of the kingdom of Sufa with 800 million souls. And of all these confederated in the lower heavens, making the kingdom of Cetus with Ahura as Mazda in chief, the central kingdom. The Diva was by this reduced to 7 members, but these remained faithful, and God kept up the standard of resurrection for yet 100 years more. And then Jehovah sent a region of Dan to heaven and earth, and the Most High heavenly host descended in fire ships and took God and his harvest up to Jehovah. With all the misfortune that befell God and his lords, there were nevertheless 6,000 million brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, raised up to the higher heavens. Now, when the Etherian host came for the resurrection, knowing the darkness upon the lower heaven and the earth, they sent Otivans with heralds and trumpeters around the earth, proclaiming the resurrection at hand, and asking all who chose to repair to Moru in Horeti. And the word was whispered throughout Ahura's kingdom. What then of a truth there must be a higher heaven than this? Alas, we had been faithful to now. We had been brides and bridegrooms. You sure would have been. They were so close. All them, the biggest bunch of them who was so close to graduating. Bruh, I bet y'all a little salty right now. And the word was whispered throughout Ahura's kingdom. What? Then of a truth, there must be higher heavens than this. Alas, we had been faithful to now. We had been brides and bridegrooms. So potent was this disaffection for Ahura that 5 of his lords broke membership and reaffiliated with God and his kingdoms. And thus matters stood when God's successor came to the throne. Chapter 11. The next Dan was 500 years, and God and his heavenly kingdoms prospered before Jehovah. But as to the Lord's kingdoms on earth, and as to mortal kingdoms and empires, not much light was manifested in them. Ahura, who had thus falsely taken and was known by the name Ahura Mazda, established lords to rule over mortals, and these lords were in direct opposition to God's lords, for the latter taught the higher heavens and the all-person Jehovah, or Ormazd, according to the language of mortals. But Ahura's lords taught only one heavenly kingdom, which was Ahura's, called Cetus, the all-holy highest heaven. God's lords inspired mortals to everlasting resurrection. Ahura's lords inspired mortals to Ahura's kingdom, and there the end. And since mortals had built temples for their priests, rabbis, who were gifted with suis, the spirits congregated in the temples and oft appeared in Sargis, teaching openly their several doctrines. So remember, those who were gifted with suis is the ability to see, prophesy, and bring judgment from the heavenly realms. But the ones under this particular kingdom is not getting their judgment and wisdom from the Most High. They're getting it from Ahura Mazda's kingdom, right? Whoever you talk to is who talk to you back. And you need to be sure who it is you talking to. Verse 3, I read again. God's lords inspired mortals to everlasting resurrection. Ahura's lords inspired mortals to Ahura's kingdom, and there the end. And since mortals had built temples for their priests, rabbis, who were gifted with suis, the spirits congregated in the temples and oft appeared in Sargis, meaning they were able to bring elements and show themselves. Those who were already graduated from the earth, they were able to clothe their spirit in what seems to be flesh and teach. And since mortals had built temples for their priests, rabbis, who were gifted with suis, the spirits congregated in the temples and often appeared in Sargis, teaching openly their several doctrines. And the Ashars that labored for Ahura extolled the glory and the delight of Cetus and the wonderful majesty and power of Ahura. But the Ashars of God's host inspired and taught of the Great Spirit unapproachable. For 500 years were God's hosts confronted with this opposition, and it came to pass that mortals, especially in Vindhu, were divided into 2 great classes of worshippers. And just before God's successor came into dominion, he propounded the matter in Diva, whereupon all the members spake at great length. Afterward, Diva decreed, whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. Read it again. Whatsoever, I need to highlight them. I didn't highlight this part. The pink. Whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. He that worshipeth an idol, whether of stone or wood, or whether it be a man or an angel, sinneth against the Creator. This was given unto all God's lords, and by them to Ashars, and commanded to be taught to mortals by inspiration and otherwise. When the time of Dan came, there were 7,000 million brides and bridegrooms raised up to Jehovah's emancipated worlds, and the succeeding God and lords came into dominion under more favorable auspices, but which were not to continue long. Trina, hey girl, hey. The Diva had extended to 14 members, and God's lords had succeeded in securing kingdoms in principal parts of Japheth, Vindhu, and Arabinia. On the other hand, the emissaries of Ahura the false had been most active in extending the kingdom of their idol. Ahura was most cunning with the last deviant act. Instead of interdicting it, he altered it, so it read as follows, to wit, whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. He that worshippeth an idol, whether of stone or wood, or whether it be a man or angel, sinneth against the All-Highest, who is personated in Ahura Mazda, the holy begotten Son of all created creations. Boy, now let me tell you something. If you don't read and you don't comprehend, you might have been caught up on this little change here. That if you didn't hear the original law, you might get tripped up. Let me go back and read. Okay. Back in verse 5. The real law was whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. Whatever you worship, it's an idol. If it has form or figure, it's an idol, right? JC worshipers, he's a form and he's a figure. That's idol worship. Just in case you didn't put that part together yet. Whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. He that worshipeth an idol, whether of stone or wood, or whether it be a man or an angel, sinneth against the Creator. Right? And so Ahura Mazda changed it to this. Whatsoever is worshipped, having comprehensible form or figure, is an idol. So that part he kept the same. He that worshipeth an idol, whether of stone or wood, or whether it be a man or angel, sinneth against, and this is where it changed. The original says the Creator. Here he changed it to sinneth against the All-Highest, who is personated in Ahura Mazda, the holy begotten Son of all created creations. That last part just contradicted the first part. It said whether it be a man or an inanimate object, wood or stone, right? So the last portion of it contradicted the very first part. Okay. Verse 8. And next, Ahura determined to found a second heaven, decreeing to his emissaries as followeth, to wit, behold, Garaxi, the heavenly region belonging above the lands of Helest. Thither will I build a new heaven, greater than all the other heavens, save Seatusk. And when Garaxi is well founded, I will people it with millions of mighty angels, gods, and lords. And my host shall descend to the corporal earth, to the lands of Parsi and Arabinia, and they shall obsess mortals day and night, and inspire them to go to Helest, where they shall build great cities and kingdoms unto me and my host. And when these things are fulfilled, behold, I will send my host to Europa, and build there also heavenly kingdoms and mortal kingdoms. And when these are established, behold, I will send into other countries, one after another, until my heavenly kingdoms embrace all places, and until all the earth is mine. For I will be God over all, and ye that labor with me shall be my lords and sub-gods forever. And my kingdoms and your kingdoms shall be bestowed with glories and ornaments, the like of which never was. Neither shall the gods of other worlds come against me or mine to carry my people away. Or to carry away my people. They shall no longer flatter them, calling them brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, a thing none can see or comprehend. Oh boy, he's just digging his grave deeper by the day. And Ahura and his emissaries set to work to carry out these decrees. And in 200 years, they had inspired the Parsians and the Arabians to emigrate by tens of thousands to the land of Helest, which was inhabited by drooks and wanderers full of wickedness. Okay, and after Helest here, it has reference to letter F, which we go to page 262 at the end of the chapter. F says, by reference to the map, it will be seen that Helest included ancient Greece, and the land of the Trojans. In another place, it is shown that the languages were Parsi, Indian, Chinese, and Arabic. 1882 edition. Okay, back to the middle part of verse 11. Matter of fact, I'll start at the beginning. And Ahura and his emissaries set to work to carry out these decrees, and in 200 years they had inspired the Parsians and the Arabians to immigrate by tens of thousands to the land of Hellas, which was inhabited by droogs and wanderers full of wickedness. Ahura inspired his immigrants to fall upon the native droogs and destroy them, wherein had come to pass that which Jehovah had spake in Moru, saying, they who cannot be risen by persuasion may be aroused by less scrupulous masters. For whilst Ahura's hosts were slaying the droogs of Hellas by tens of thousands, gods of heavenly hosts were receiving their spirits and conducting them away to other atmospherian regions. For whilst Ahura's hosts were slaying the droogs of Hellas by tens of thousands, God's heavenly hosts were receiving their spirits and conducting them away to other atmospheric regions. These then were the divisions of mortals on earth at this time. First, the Ehenes, who were the original Faithists, and they were capable of prophecies and miracles to such an extent that all other people called them the sacred people. Neither did the great warriors of other nations and peoples molest them. The Ehenes lived secluded and separate from all other people. Nevertheless, they were the seed of everlasting life on the earth, and the foundation for raising up prophets and seers unto other peoples. I like this part. Okay. Even as the mother of Zarathustra was of the Ehenes, so was it with all men and women born into the world with Suis and Sargis. For being near Jehovah, they had faith in him and him only. The second race, equally ancient, was the Droogs, the barbarian hordes, incapable of inspiration save for their stomach's sake. And though they were told 1,000 times, behold, you have a spiritual body, they understood not, cared not, and forgot it a moment after. And though it were said to them, behold, there is a great spirit, they heard it not, nor understood, nor heeded the words. The third race was the Ehuans, born betwixt the Ehenes and the Droogs. To this race, in its early days, a commandment was given by God not to marry with the Droogs, and they had maintained that law amongst themselves by the sign of the circumcision. This then was the first beginning of persecutions against Faithists in Jehovah. Verse 14. When Ahura usurped his heavenly kingdom and appointed guardian angels over mortals, he determined to leave nothing undone in order to overthrow the doctrine of Jehovah, the all-person. So he decreed as followeth to wit. Since by the mark of the circumcision they have pride in being faithists, I will not have circumcision. After the third generation, 100 years, whosoever hath this mark upon him is my enemy. He shall be pursued, and no profit shall fall to his lot. Suffer not the little children to be maimed for my sake, rather let them be circumcised in heart. And Ahura put no restrictions upon his mortal followers marrying, and it came to pass that those Droogs not slain in Hellas married with the worshippers of Ahura. And about the same time of Jehovah, and about the same period of time, Jehovah brought the earth And about the same period of time, Jehovah brought the earth into a light region for 200 years. And when the diva was in session, Jehovah's voice spake, saying to Div, saying, let my sons be not cast down because of the sins of Ahura. Rather, be ye wise and appropriate from his wickedness that which will be good in the end. For as it was not lawful for my people to marry with the Drooks, behold, Ahura hath made a law on his own account against circumcision, and it shall come to pass that by their sins even Drooks shall be raised up to learn of me and my kingdoms. And after my kingdoms, it has reference letter G. So hop back to page 262. G says, when Drooks is used as a common, when Drooks is used as a common noun, it refers to any spiritually ignorant person. When used as a proper noun, it refers to the now extinct race that was born of Ehin and Asu, 1882 in lowest edition. Okay, so Drooks here was capitalized, referring to the actual people that are actually extinct now. Okay. And it came to pass that a fourth race rose up in the world, and it was mongrel, being dark and short and less noble. The Ehuans were red and brown and tall and majestic. The Ehins small and white and yellow. And after yellow, it has reference letter H. It is worth reiterating that the Ehin and Drook races are extinct. All current races of any complexion or appearance are descended from the Ehuans and the Gans. Also refer back to the Lord's 5th book, chapter 3, verse 4. Let's go there real quick. The Lord's 5th book. Page 122. Chapter 3, verse 4. Chapter 3, verse 4. It's on page 127. I thought I highlight this before I just kind of made a mark. Okay. It says, of all colors, black, white, yellow, copper, red, and brown were the tribes of Ham. Nevertheless, they were Ehins, faiths, having flat nails and short arms, and of such as desired to acquire knowledge. And I brought them into a country of sand fields and of fields of rich pastures interspersed, where lived but few natives, the dark people with short hair. Neither omitted I even the hair of the head of man without providing testimony of my word. Okay. All right, that's the end of that reference. All right. Verse 18, back on page 249. And it came to pass that a fourth race rose up in the world, and it was mongrel, being dark and short and less noble. The Ehuans were red and brown and tall and majestic. The Ehins small and white and yellow. And Jehovah put these marks upon his people, that the races might be read in 1,000 years. Not red like R-E-D, red, R-E-A-D. So the colors that we all are marks upon us, so that in coming years we can be read. People can figure us out. Okay. According to where we actually come from, but we got to have all the missing pieces, and this is clearly a part of the bigger piece of the puzzle. All right. And Jehovah put these marks upon, let me start the whole verse over. Verse 18. And it came to pass that a fourth race rose up in the world, and it was mongrel, being dark and short and less noble. The Ehuans were red and brown and tall and majestic. The Ehings small and white and yellow. And Jehovah put these marks upon his peoples, that the races might be read in thousands of years. Ahura perceived this. One of his lords said unto him, and after him it has reference number 6, and it said unto him, Behold, the marks of Suez are written. Then Ahura sought us to disprove Jehovah in this. He said, okay. I'll just start reading it over again. Verse 19. Ahura perceived this. One of his lords said unto him, Thou, Ahura, soughtest to disprove Jehovah in this. Ahura said, Behold, there are two senses to all men, the S and the corporal, or the spirit and the flesh. As the spirit, corporal is flesh, right, or physical. Behold, there are two senses to all men, the S and the corporal. When one is in abeyance, the other acteth. This is Suez. Call together thy companions and find a remedy, for I will prove all things in heaven and earth. For 50 years, Ahura and his host tried by other means to have born into the world a great prophet, seer, but failed. Ahura said, I know the way of the Lewis. They decoy the Ehin men to go with the Ehuan damsels, but I have sworn there is no Jehovah. How then shall I go to the sacred people? And after all, such a prophet might prove treacherous to my kingdom. So Ahura commanded the emissaries to weigh the matter for other 50 years and then to solve the problem. Now pay attention to this on how they create prophets out of newborn babies, prophets and seers, right? You have those. I don't know that they necessarily still do it like this today, but they're definitely, like, y'all ever seen movies like, what's a good one? I want to say, movies like the Omen and Damien and stuff. Those who can like look ahead, they have the gift to see and prophesy and stuff, but they can see like into the dark kingdoms, and they give you all the gruesome details of what can happen. They do it to get prophecies like that, and true indeed, their prophecies do come to pass, but they don't tell you the full extent of what happens, because just like there's a dark side, there is a light side, so to speak, if you want to look at it that way. You know, so if you, not that y'all do, or if y'all have, or like we talked about before, people who read crystal balls and tarots and stuff, a lot of times they can give you true information, but they don't give you the full extent. And when they give it to you, they give it to you from a different perception. Just like the lady I showed y'all, the tarot reader and everything, how she was saying, oh, it's going to be an uproar and all this stuff. People are not happy with this, the great mother, all this stuff she was saying. True indeed. And we can see that happening. But a lot of people get it all chopped and screwed. There's like, they think this is the ultimate truth when it's not. It's the flip side. It's the dark side of things. And they're giving it to you from their perception, and their perception is skewed. Right? You need to look at it from a bird's eye view, from the higher perception on why it's being done, right? Not just to save the lives of unborn babies, but also to cause here's what they said. Okay, so they said, oh, they're taking away women's right and choice to do whatever they want to do with their body. You can look at it that way, and it seems to be that way. But the real case is bringing those same women who want to do whatever things willy-nilly. We're not talking about the women who truly have been like abused and they really have to make a decision. They are really the very minute minority, if there is such a thing, right? And it's not those women, except for the ones who haven't been healed, but it's very, 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 very few of those women that's a part of that group. Right? Those who have been healed are still pro-life, to whereas the other ones, they want pro-choice. Let us do what we want to do, right? But the higher law says, yeah, it may look like we're taking away your choice, but we're not. What we're doing by doing this is causing you to become more accountable for your life, so you're not out here in the streets being a whore, right? If you were not here in the streets being a whore, sitting on everything you can find, you wouldn't have to worry about having an abortion, right? So the higher law is to bring you into accountability before a child is even created and born into this world, right? They don't give it to you from that perspective because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves, right? But I digress. I'll go back to verse 20. Behold, there are two senses to all men, the S and the corpore. When one is in abeyance, the other active. This is suis. Call together thy companions and find a remedy, for I will prove all things in heaven and earth. For 50 years, Ahura and his host tried by other means to have born into the world a great prophet and seer, but faileth. Ahura said, I know the way of the Lewis. They decoy the Ehim men to go with the Ehuan damsels, but I have sworn that there is no Jehovah. How then shall I go to the sacred people? And after all, such a prophet might prove treacherous to my kingdom. So Ahura commanded his emissaries to weigh the matter for other 50 years and then to solve the problem. So Ahura's emissaries inspired thousands of experiments to be made, whereby a prophet or a seer could be made amongst the mongrels. And Jehovah suffered them to discover, listen to this, y'all. You must be new, Heidi. And shalom. Well, thank you for entering our space. We are not under the kingdoms of the false gods and false lords, and the true creator looks at his men and his women equally. He don't tell the women that they can't teach, right? Because in Yahuwah's world, he gave women to be the first teachers of the world. You got children, and women are also the first teachers of men. Think about it. That's not, I didn't create this. We can look at nature and see what the truth is. Verse 22. So Ahura's emissaries inspired thousands of experiments to be made, whereby a prophet or a seer could be made amongst the mongrels. And Jehovah suffered them to discover that by pressing down the front brain of infants, they could be made capable of suis, or being made to see prophetically and pull judgment from the spiritual realm, right? And Jehovah suffered them to discover that by pressing down the front brain of infants, they could be made capable of suis. And infants were strapped on boards, and another board strapped on the forehead to press the head flat. And every day the headboard was strapped on anew, tighter and tighter, until the forehead, which holdeth the corporal judgment, was pressed flat, and the judgment of the brain driven up into light, perceiving regions at the top of the head, right? So if we know anything about our body, and how we were created, what they call the pineal gland, they also call like the seat of the soul or whatever, right? If that is calcified, you are literally spiritually dense. Like you can't perceive anything spiritual that's calcified, right? But when you begin to clean up your diet and you go plant-based, or let's not say diet, let's just say lifestyle, and you go plant-based, what happens is natural fruits and veggies will begin to decalcify your pineal gland, and you will begin to realize that you are becoming more spiritual. Why? Because this up here in your brain that everybody has, it's all the gunk and the salt deposits, all those things that gather around it that make you spiritually dense. It begins to melt away, and now you can perceive spiritual things, right? That's something, if you practice it, you will know, right? Okay. So after top of the head, it has reference letter I, and it says see Chiga and Tukshin, plates 11 and 12, and accompanying reference in First Book of God, chapter 27, verse 34, 1882, 1891 editions. And the great creator is Yahuwah. And here it calls the great creator Jehovah. It goes over how the great creator, or we still call him Yah or Yahuwah, right? He's not even getting into all the terms, right? The languages, they're all mixed up. he don't even care about that, right? But we do know that there is a great creator, the creator of us all and everything. That is who we worship, and we worship him only. And we don't worship him by proxy, and we don't worship middlemen and saviors. We worship him only, right? So this is what this is teaching us. And this book just happens to call him Jehovah, but we know him to be the great creator, the great spirit of all. And I know if you come from the Hebrew camp, they get into the J's and the whole, and this is this, and we ain't even getting into all that. All of that is garbage. All of it, right? So we don't even go to those. We not doing that here. Okay, so let's look for this. Plates 11 and 12. That is not what we are here for. We are here to study together, and we are seeking truth together. And if we have things that are out of place, when we realize it's out of place and we find the truth, we adjust what we believe to the truth. All right, Tukshin is plate 11 on 315. Both of them. Chiga and Tukshin, 11 and 12. Okay, page 315, both of them. It says on page 315. Okay. Oh, hold on. Hold on. I get it. Hold on. Okay. Lord, y'all. This is my place. Hold on. This right here. Okay. Okay, so on page 315, if you got it, it shows plate 11 and plate 12. Okay. This is plate 11. This is plate 12. This is, what's that? 11 is Tukshin, and this is Chiga. Right, so see this plate on this dude's forehead, pressing it all the way back? They did this to people like this from the time they were born in order to press it all the way back. And the harder it's pressed, it just further moves back like the head. I ain't gonna say it dismembers them, but they keep applying the pressure until they hit that sweet spot where that right there in the portion of the brain is touched, and they activate it that way. And it said that Jehovah allowed it to happen, right? But he said in the beginning that all of this was going to happen because at the end he was going to turn it around for what he wanted to have done. So, okay. So that plate. See Chiga and Tukshin, plates 11 and 12, and accompanying reference in First Book of God, chapter 27. Okay, First Book of God. Oh, it's right here. First Book of God, chapter, y'all my Roman numerals, 27. Let's go to 27. XXVII. XXV. Oh, it's right down the same page. Duh. Okay. XXVII, verse 34. Okay. Verse 34. No. Ain't no 34. Am I looking at that wrong? First Book of God. First Book of God. Chapter XXVII. XXV. Oh. I was in the wrong spot. This VIII. Okay. 34. Here we go. Page 314. Sorry, y'all. I'd be a little slow sometime to find it. Okay. Verse 34. Then came Iwata, came first to the kingdom of Tukshin and to his queen Chiga in the land Anagumahaha, the flatheads, told them all the words of the great spirit Egoquim. Okay. All right. So Chiga is his queen. Tukshin is the flathead dude. Okay, they've been doing it to him since he was a baby. Okay, back to where we left off. Page 250, verse 23 in chapter 11 of Book of Divinity. Ahura thus raised up prophets and seers, and they were willing instruments in his hands. And he sent into all the divisions of the earth tens of thousands of angels, teaching this to mortals, thus laying down the foundation for his grand scheme of reducing heaven and earth into his own kingdoms. Jehovah spake in the Diva, saying, even this permit ye. The Drooks will heed more of what their own people saith as a seer than if the same thing were than if the same thing were said 100 times over by the Ehim, right? So still they getting the truth, but because they're not going to listen to the sacred people, y'all allowed Ahura, the false lord and God, to develop it on their side, because they'll listen to their people before they listen to y'all people anyway. All right, y'all, where we at? Oh, we at an hour. We're going to pause right on the hour point today, because this next chapter, chapter 12, is pretty long. It's 36 verses, and it's like 2.5 pages. So that's definitely going to take us way past the point I need to be at today. So we're going to pause right here. This was good, y'all, and we're almost done. We'll actually probably be finished with this. Let's say a couple more days. Definitely, we'll probably get through it by the time the weekend is over, if not before then. So, with that being said, beautiful people, thank y'all for hanging out today. And put the page where we pause. 250 and chapter 12. All right, y'all. So it is Thursday, June the 30th, 2022, day 146 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count. Y'all, we've been here 1,164 days without the Sabbath, and the days I had to take an extra sabbatical to restore myself, my body, right? We read pages 246 to 250 in the book of Divinity, found in Oahspe. Remember, I always put the link for Oahspe where you can get a copy if you want to get it from Amazon or wherever they're selling it. I always put the Amazon link. Everybody know Amazon is legit, right? But if you don't have the money, and it be on sale from like $20 to like $29, but the regular price, I got mine for $30, but you can get it there. If you can't get it, I always post in there as well the link to the online. Everything is there as well, right? So you got you have the ability to have your own copy, whether it's the online version where everybody can get into, or you need the printed copy. I need the pages to fill and go through and highlight myself, you know. All right, beautiful people. So that is it. Nothing really to share. I'm not sure yet where's Jen. I know Jen added, she asked the other day when we're going to start the other book. Like, you know how we do the first 30 minutes of reading through the main meat of the video. And then we call the last 30 minutes the lab. We'll pick that back up maybe after we get all the way through the book of Divinity. I'm trying to see. But the next one we are going to read is the Initiates of the Flame. I think everybody probably already went and got a copy. And we're going to start dividing the hour back into 30 minutes and 30 minutes again. But I'm not sure if I want to do it after we finish the book of Divinity or until after we get through the book of Spencer Armage, daughter of Jehovah. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm still looking into it, y'all. I be wanting to just like, I wish everything could be just downloaded into us like right now, and we just sit and talk about it and propound upon things. But we can't do that, you know. We haven't attained to that level yet, so we got to do it the manual way, which is cool and it's fine with me because we get to chat back and forth. All right, so let me go. Let me see. I didn't want to get thrown off. I wanted to finish. Let me see if I can. Look like y'all to answer questions or whatever for Heidi. Hold on. Let me see. Francis, shalom, shalom. I agree with what Heidi said, where it says check every word for yourself. That's what we teach. Check every word, right? We already know who the author of the Bibles, how all of this was created, right? We've been checking. We've been doing our due diligence. Thank you, Audrey. I'll read Audrey's comment. We started off reading the Bible and we continue to grow. If you really sit and listen more than just once for 10 minutes, you will gain much understanding. She always tells us to do our own study. Alicia said, Heidi, I think everyone here has surpassed you a little. Did you know that the Bible is the youngest holy book? Yeah, Heidi, we ain't gonna talk about them. I shake the dust off my sandals. Yeah, it's a lot of people, as they're waking up, they're still really steeped in a lot of tradition, and a lot of us come from there, you know, until we really, what really woke us up. If she go back and watch some of the earlier videos, which she probably won't, because she probably already left here, maybe possibly she could be still hanging out just to see or whatever, but that's how we the church teaches us. Even the Hebrew camps teach us everything. Throw it up. If it ain't from here, it's of the devil. It's of Satan, and you're going against the Creator. Absolutely not. We're finding out how to really do our due diligence and check into everything. Just like what I agree with something that the New Testament says, where it says, be like the Bereans, right? And you go back and find out, see if these things be true. And what we have learned from after the 3 years of constantly reading the Bible word for word, all the way through our first 3 years here, it's recorded. Hide if you hear, you can go back and you can watch, right? Watch how we've grown. Watch how we've come to the decision, how we've taken every single thing and we went through it. And I think that's what our Creator wants us to do. He wants us to be smart. He doesn't want us to be a bunch of followers. He wants us to be responsible for our own salvation, if you want to call it that. Do our own due diligence. Don't just believe what's been constantly taught just because it's been taught for so long and you've been born into it, right? Because there were a lot of questions that we weren't getting answered. Things that was happening to us spiritually, those of us that have spiritual gifts, and there's a lot of us here who have spiritual gifts that they don't explain the right way, something that just don't sit right with us, right? And we need answers. And apparently they weren't giving them because either one, they were ignorant, or two, they knew and they withheld information. And the more we researched and we did our own due diligence, doing our own personal study, not just people showing up here to hear me talk, right? You go do your own stuff. You will develop your own relationship with the Creator, and He will begin to bring light to your eyes and light up the dark places, right? So we've been lighting up the dark places in our lives, right? And we bring it out. If we find out something, oh, shoot, that was wrong. We should not have been doing that. We will repent and we will get it straight, and we will adjust our lives to the truth, right? And everybody should do that. Y'all doesn't want us under the leadership or slavery of teachers who teach you thus thou art and do what I say because I'm in a position and you pay homage unto me because God put me in place. That's garbage. They are garbage. And I tell them to their face, you are garbage, right? Because you're leading people astray. Yah doesn't want his people enslaved. He made us free. He created all men free, right? To teach ourselves first and foremost, and all those who are under our care, right? We lead by our lives of light. Seriously. And people can look at our lives and they can eat, right? Or they can, if we're not living according to light and everything that tends to light or life, we know that's from the true Creator, right? Yahuwah, or the Great Spirit, or the ever present, or the whatever you want to call them. My most affectionate term is the Most Holy, right? Some people say the Most High, whatever, right? We ain't fighting about words. But the point is that we walk in light. And if it doesn't lead to light or life, then you know it's not coming from the Great Spirit, not Yah, not the Great Creator, right? Because all things He do leads to life for everybody involved. For everybody involved, right? You're right, Jen. She'll be back when it's time to wake up. She might even prove yourself, right? Everything that the Creator gives us is provable. And He wants us to personally prove it on our own time when we're ready, right? When the student is ready, the teacher appears. I love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.